Welcome everybody, Kevin Byrne, your county executive here. I'm joined by a number of distinguished officials and men and women in law enforcement from our Carmel Police Department. We're here on the Empire State Trail, the Putnam County Trailway, to talk about a very serious issue in the aftermath of an assault on one of our own residents in the town of Carmel, which led to the release of the assailant in the town of Carmel. One of the things that we pride ourselves on in Putnam County is that we are one of the most safe counties in America, and in the heart of Putnam County is the town of Carmel, which is one of the safest towns in New York State in America. But that being said, we are not immune from some of the dangers that are forced on us from some of the disastrous catch and release, no bail laws in New York State. This is something that is close to me and some of my colleagues that are to my right and to my left. I was in the state legislature when we were debating against and voting against the bail reforms that undermined and took away tools from our judges and reduced judicial discretion, giving them the powers to impose bail to make sure people that were being arrested could actually be dealt with appropriately and fairly to keep our communities safe. I know our Assemblyman Slater has been a big fighter on this issue. He's here to my left and to my right, a very notable figure in Putnam County, our Congressman Lawler, who I had the good fortune of serving with in the state legislature. And I know when he ran for state assembly the first time, fixing the broken bail laws out of Albany was a very big part of his platform. We've learned since this individual was arrested that he's currently undomiciled. The man is part of the transient population. We don't know where he is since he's been released. He was arrested for a third-degree assault, but has a pretty significant criminal background according to the Carmel Police Department. We have representatives from our county legislature here. We have legislator Aaron Crowley and legislator Bill Goulden. We have the leader in town government, a former police chief, our supervisor Mike Gazzeri, and we also have a candidate for county legislator in this area, Jake D'Angelo. Mike Gazzeri, I want to make sure I acknowledge you and your team, because it was the Carmel Police Department, the Kent Police Department, and the Putnam County Sheriff's Office, led by our acting sheriff Brian Hess, that helped apprehend the suspect in this assault. With that, to share some words, I want to first introduce our congressman, who's been a leader on this issue, even though his role has changed as our congressman. He very much cares about keeping our communities safe in New York. Without further ado, Congressman Michael Lawler. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, County Executive Byrne, and thank you for your leadership both in the state legislature and now as county executive. The issue of bail reform has been one that has been addressed and discussed ad nauseum, and sadly, the state legislature has failed in its responsibilities under one-party Democratic rule to fix it. They have consistently tried to tweak it. They've made changes, but the reality is that those changes have not made our communities safe. The reality is that people continue to fall victim to violent felonies, fall victim to violent assaults all across New York because of the feckless, incompetent leadership of Kathy Hochul and New York Democrats in Albany. And when you look at what is happening in New York City right now with Zohran Mamdani on the verge of becoming mayor of New York City, someone who has advocated for defunding the police, who wants to get rid of the gang unit in New York City, who wants to shut down prisons, who wants to continue to eliminate cash bail, who does not want a dangerousness standard, who wants to reduce the police force and increase the social worker force in New York. This will lead to a disaster, not just in New York City, but across our region and state, because we know numerous times we have seen crimes committed in New York City, criminals fleeing New York City, coming up to our jurisdiction, coming up to our area, committing more violent crimes. This didn't have to happen. We have seen case after case after case where individuals commit assaults, they are arrested and then released, and then they commit another assault. whether it be a sexual assault, whether it be a physical assault, whether it be a robbery. This has happened time and again, and New York has failed to fix it. They have failed to hold criminals accountable. They have failed to support the men and women in law enforcement, and they have failed to protect victims. They have failed to protect the victims of crime. It has to stop. It has to change. Cashless bail must be repealed, period. We need a dangerousness standard in New York in which criminals and their prior criminal history can be taken into account by judges when it comes to determining whether or not the individual should be released back out onto the street. When you have repeat offenders continually inflicting harm on innocent people, continually engaged in violent offenses, something's got to change. The recidivism rate in this state is out of control. When you look at those who are held on a violent felony under cashless bail, and released back onto the streets, over 40% are reoffending. It's outrageous. And this is a direct result of Kathy Hochul, Carl Hastie, and Andrea Stewart Cousins refusing to do the right thing by New Yorkers, refusing to ensure that victims are protected, that law enforcement is supported, and that criminals are held to account. The only thing they seem to care about is that criminals are released back out onto the streets. That is the only thing they seem to want to fight for, to ensure that criminals who commit violent crimes can go back out onto the street to reoffend. Because otherwise you wouldn't allow this law to continue as it is. So I'm happy to be here today alongside County Executive Byrne, as well as our next speaker and a good friend of ours who has advocated tirelessly in Albany to change this law and stop the insanity, our great Assemblyman Slater.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. It's fantastic to be in Putnam County. I just wish it was under better circumstances. But this clearly demonstrates once again why and how Albany is failing New Yorkers every single day. As the Congressman perfectly established, Albany politicians are choosing criminals over victims. They're choosing criminals over public safety every day of the week. And actions speak louder than words. And I'm going to talk to you today about those actions. Because for more than 40 opportunities, more than 40 times, Democrats in Albany stopped this year common sense legislation from proceeding to the floor of the Assembly that would prevent and stop these ridiculous acts of violence from happening. More than 40 times. Think about that. They claim they want to prioritize public safety. Then why would our colleagues in Albany, the Democrats who control every aspect of state government, why would they pose A 4206 like they did, which would let judges consider whether a defendant poses a threat to the community and allow bail to be established? Or A 6358, which would restore, as the Congressman said, we desperately need judicial discretion when dealing with bail. These are just two bills. There were more than 40 this year alone that Albany Democrats, under Governor Kathy Hochul, under Speaker Carl Hastie, and under the leadership of Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins, stopped from going forward because those are the common sense proposals that New Yorkers are demanding and that New Yorkers deserve. And what's the governor's answer to this by the way? She tells us, and she tells the public, that judges just don't understand the law. Really? Really, Governor? Judges don't understand the law. It is their profession and knowledge that we rely on every single day. And when you talk to our judges, when you talk to our district attorneys, they will tell you that they know the law and the law on the books is not working. Again, more than 40 times, 40 opportunities to change these laws, to make them better, to repeal cashless bail, and every single time, Albany Democrats said no. They chose criminals every single time. That is a failure of leadership. That is a failure to New Yorkers, and we all deserve better. It's great to be here with some great partners in government, including Putnam County Legislator Erin Lee Crowley, who knows this issue quite well. She is a fierce advocate for law enforcement. She is, in fact, a wife of a Putnam County deputy who fights for our communities every single day, and I'm thrilled to welcome her to the podium to say a few words. County Legislator.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Good morning. I'm sorry that we're here under these terrible pretenses, but as your county legislator, my #1 priority has been trying to keep this community safe. As Matt Slater said, my husband is a deputy here in the county. He was patrolling this bike path on Sunday because since this horrible tragedy has happened, there has been increased policing that has needed to happen. What happened to the resident on the Carmel Trail is unacceptable, and no one should fear ever using a public space, especially in broad daylight. Incidents like this are a direct result of Albany's failed bail reform and new discovery laws that prevent judges from doing their jobs and tie the hands of law enforcement. Violent offenders with long rap sheets are being released back into our neighborhoods instead of being held accountable. That must change. I will continue fighting to restore judicial discretion, strengthen our discovery statutes, and support law enforcement and put our safety first always. It is important that we continue to work together on all levels of government to push back against Albany and these unmandated, ridiculous fodder that they're pushing on our county and on our community. And with that, I will welcome up Legislator Bill Gouldman to the podium.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
You hear time and time again about the crime in our streets. Just pick up the newspaper, listen to the television, listen to the radio. Violent crime is very prevalent in our society. Now it has come to the suburbs of Putnam County. The progressives in our state legislature believe that if someone commits a crime, doesn't mean that they're criminals. That's nonsense. We all know that. That's ridiculous. A criminal is defined as a person who has committed a crime. These soft on crime policies destroy our day-to-day sense of security. Progressive criminal justice reforms, such as defunding the police, ending cash bail, refusing to prosecute misdemeanors, letting thousands of convicted felons out on the street, cutting prison populations, all are escalating the violent crime problem we have here in New York State. These are not victimless crimes. People are getting hurt and people are dying, and this must stop, and it could stop. A federal report suggests that there is a 40% recidivism rate, and a local New York State report estimated it's closer to 50%, not 40%. This is ridiculous, and this could stop. Reach out to your progressives in the state legislature and tell them to get rid of these dangerous laws. Let's bring common sense back to New York. Thank you.
I just want to chime in on one thing. I did speak with, I don't know if I shared, I spoke with a victim earlier this morning who is very supportive of the efforts of the people that are here this morning. And I want to introduce our supervisor, my supervisor is a Carmel resident, Mike Kazari, and share that he and his town board have passed a resolution, I think almost every year, calling for the repeal of bail reform, and we're very grateful. So, Mike Kazari.
Thank you, County Executive, for bringing this subject up. As you said, the town board, the Carmel Town Board, does pass a resolution every year demanding that the legislature changes this progressive policy and law. Without the discretion, the judges can't hold people that are violent. Our fine officers are here behind me from Carmel PD. Them, along with the Kent Police and the Sheriff's Office, like you said before, were able to respond and quickly find the culprit in this alleged crime. But the problem is, of course, we have a catch and release policy in this state, and I urge everyone, as our legislator from Putnam Valley said, get out and tell your progressive Democrat friends that this has got to change. It's making even our community unsafe, and That's just not right. Thank you. We have with us my friend, Jake D'Angelo, who is running for the legislator in the town of Carmel. Jacob?
As we gather here this morning on the Putnam Trailway, a trailway that I grew up using with family and friends, I can't help but be disgusted by the violent assault that occurred to one of our neighbors just days ago. I can't help but be even more disgusted by the fact that this violent criminal is now walking the streets free thanks to no cash bail. Cashless bail is another example that you could add to a rather long list of failed and egregious Democrat policies. It seems to me that the left would rather virtue signal through their legislation than pass policy that puts forward protections for the people they are supposed to serve and represent. Thanks to the affordability crisis largely pushed by the Democrats, a homeless man found himself on our trailway and violently assaulted a Putnam County resident. And now, thanks to cashless bail, that man was released with only a court date. I'm calling on the Albany Democrats to repeal this reckless legislation and allow judges to hold violent criminals in jail. Thank you.
With that, I want to thank everyone for coming out here. Happy to stay on the side and answer any questions that you may have. But appreciate you being here, and it's time for Albany to finally act and right this wrong that they imposed on New Yorkers nearly 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago. It's not just affecting cities and urban communities. It's affecting every community in New York, including communities like Putnam County and then the hamlet of Carmel. So thank you.